In this episode, I try to build my very first high-end gaming PC. Because how hard could it be? Welcome to another episode of Mr. Doing TV. You would have seen in the previous episode that I've unboxed all of these high-end components. In this episode, I want to try to put it together by myself. Now, this is the first time I'm building a PC of any sort. I've never built a PC before. I have no idea what any of the benchmarks on the PC parts mean, let alone some very expensive high-end components. So I hope that it goes okay. Now, for the last few years, I've been using a Dell XPS 13. It had an i7 8th gen processor, and honestly, it was pretty good up until I started doing video editing for the YouTube channel. And the integrated GPU was, very lackluster. It didn't have a dedicated GPU, and I don't think I've ever had a dedicated GPU in any of the laptops or PC I've used before that. Now that I don't need a laptop, because the school I work at provides me with a work laptop, I have the luxury of buying or building one of these PCs. So I sold my personal laptop about a week ago, and for the last week and a bit, I've been using this school laptop. It's fine when you're doing schoolwork, but can't edit any videos on it because it's absolute crap. It's some HP I don't even know. And yeah, from the faculty of enlightenment. Now, this isn't going to be a tutorial. It's just going to show you how someone like me, who knows absolutely nothing about PCs, can actually put one together, well, hopefully pretty easily. And if you enjoy what you see, please remember to hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon. I'd really appreciate your support. Let's get going with the video. As I said, I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm just going to start by watching that video and work it out as I go. We're going to start off with the motherboard. So the first thing I want to do is put the CPU in. Honestly, to me, this is the most daunting part. I really don't want to screw this up. So first thing I want to do is open this up. This thing is pretty heavy for its size. So I'm going to use this arrow here, if you can see in the video, to make sure that it goes in the right area. Okay. Oh, that wasn't so hard. The next part is closing that. Oops. Oh, that was a lot louder than I would have liked. Pushing that in. Oh, it does require a lot of force. And now the CPU is in. It wasn't that bad. Hope I don't jinx myself. So this here is a heatsink for the main M2 drive. Right, and I've got the Samsung 980 Pro here. This thing is so pretty. It only goes in one way. That's in. It locks in just like that. Simple. Now I'm gonna put the heatsink back in, take off the sticker for the thermal pad, put it on. And you really do want the heatsink because under high load, the SSD, I'd imagine, probably gets really hot. Instead of all the heat radiating through the case, the heatsink probably absorbs some of it and keeps the heat contained in here as much as it can before it starts to radiate through the case. There, so that's two things done to the motherboard. Now next is the DDR4 RAM. Why did I go for DDR4 and not DDR5? Well, it's a lot cheaper and it's just easier to get. There is a little sign or code over here that tells you which RAM slots to use first. All right, so it's dual channel RAM and it pretty much only goes in one way. That's not the right way, but this is. Needs a little bit of encouragement, I guess. Oh, there you go. So that was quite a lot of force, a lot more than I expected at least. And in. And that's all I need to do with the motherboard, at least for now anyway. All right, so next I'll start moving on to the case. And the front as well. Okay, so I've already started on the case by replacing the two black fans that come with it. From the factory, there was one here and one at the back. I've moved the one from the front up here and I've kept the one at the back just like that. The only difference is that the 2 white ARGB ones compared to the 2 black ones. I just wanted to continue the white theme inside the case. And it's really easy. There's just 4 screws at the top and 4 screws at the back. Take it off, put it on. Right, and I think at this point in time, it's probably a good idea to start off with the power supply and get all the wires and harnesses that you need from the power supply first. There's been a delay in the delivery of my power supply, so I'm gonna try to do everything that I can without the power supply first and then come on to that a little bit later. So next I'm gonna be working out the cooling situation and getting the AIO to fit into here. And to start with the cooler, at least for this case anyway, there are some screws here. Take that off, and this is where I'm going to be mounting the 2 fans and the radiator for my AIO. I reckon this AIO looks really cool, even though I don't know anything about how it works or why it works. But I guess it works just like a radiator in a car. It has to go this way. Alright, so the kit has these really long screws, and ideally you would want to use this to go through the fan and then out the other side into the radiator. Yeah, so that's going to sit like that. I'll get 1 fan and put it through. Just like when you're working on a car, you kind of want to do these screws in a cross pattern just so that it goes in or mounts evenly. This AIO is done. That looks so cool. So I want to set this aside again. And the one thing I forgot is to put in the bracket for the AIO behind this. All right, so I've got to put this in at the back. There's some tape on it, but let me see that it's the right one first. No, it's not the right one. This one is the right one. Hey, these hexagons with the thread on either way. It's just like an expensive Lego piece, I guess. All right, I also need to put in the bracket for the cooler for the 1700. Oh, finally finished getting the bracket onto this CPU cooler. And God, it's the most annoying design. That's the bracket, and this is the CPU cooler. The bracket goes on and the screws go on from underneath. It's so annoying, but I finally got it. I want to get this through. Route the cables for the fans now, because when the CPU goes in, there's going to be absolutely no room. Lower the table a little bit. I think this is ready to go in. Oh, but before this goes in, I've got to put in the I/O shield. So it's pretty simple. Just got to line up the motherboard with the holes on the case and also the ports at the back with the I/O shield and screw them down. And now time to marry the CPU cooler with the case and then the motherboard. So this was something extra that I had to buy. It was separate, it's 10 bucks. It's an RGB splitter, so this end goes into the motherboard. There are 4 fans, so there are 4 connections here, and I want to connect each of them to the same connection on the motherboard. Right. So that's simple enough. All right, time to put the CPU cooler in. Put the paste on, double paste on the CPU first. All right, I'm gonna do an X pattern. Right, I don't know if that's enough or too much. Peel this off and mount it in. Right, and secure it using a cross pattern so that it spreads evenly. Pretty much there or thereabouts. It's a little bit messy now, but who cares, honestly. So we'll deal with the cable management after. Oh yeah, so this comes in the case. Got a bunch of ties, SATA cable, and mounts. So that's the housing for the hard drive, optical disc, so there is room for 2 of them. Just put it in, line it up, and then bolt it down. So there are rails, holes in the rails. Just have to screw it down. 1, 2, 3, and I assume on the other side as well. Cool, yes. All right, so the PSU has finally come in. Let's work out which cables I need to get this computer running. I'm so excited. I'll need this big one that powers the motherboard. That goes underneath there, and this goes straight into the motherboard. I also need SATA power, hey. We'll get that in just a bit. CPU, which one is CPU? Oh, there we go, CPU. This one says CPU. Obviously the one that says CPU. All right, goes in there. Okay. I also need SATA. Which one is the SATA? I think this is SATA. So this one's for SATA. And for GPU, we need 2 8-pin PCIEs. Does it fit? Yep, that fits. Okay, so again, let's do a cross pattern. All right, I'm gonna thread this through here for the CPU. There you go. So the CPU's in, thread through this really big one for the motherboard. Just goes underneath through there. So this really big one over here, I don't know how many pins it is. Don't really want to count. And I think that's in though. The cables on this are really stiff. I don't know if I like it. All right, now that's definitely in. USB 3.0 coming in here. That's in. I've got some fans and RGB up there. Maybe I'll use this. Fans up there. That's USB 3.0 for the front panel. That is USB-C for the front panel. And down here, I've got all the other things for the front panel, like the power switch, the light, the audio jack, and I think that's it. Now, the moment we've been waiting for, finally time to get the GPU in. Gonna quickly take out all of these. There are so many ports for screens. I think it's pretty simple. This top PCIe slot there. Oh yeah, it's pretty big. All these cords are all in the way. I think that's in. Can't pull it out. It didn't click. I can't tell if that's all the way in here. Okay, try again. All right, now that's definitely in. It's clicked, and that looks so good already. Ignore the messy table. This is the moment of truth. I want to press the button. Hopefully it turns on. 3, 2, 1. Oh. Power. 3, 2, 1. What? 3, 2, 1. Yes! Woo! It's on! It's on! It works! Yeah! Oh mama, hell yeah. Nice. It works, yay! Just had to install a whole heap of drivers. First of all, I had to update the BIOS because this motherboard out of the box isn't completely compatible with the 12th gen Intel. But with the BIOS, now it's working. Just gotta clean everything up. Alright, it looks messy, but I promise it's not that bad at all. These are just the cables for the RGB fans. All of these wires are for powering the motherboard and the GPU, CPU, and they all come from a PSU. I've tried to cable tie them as much as I can and put them in that gap there. There's the optical drive, one optical drive, one power cable there, and that there is a data cable going to the motherboard. These wires are power and color to the RGB fans at the front. That looks so cool through that black mesh. These 2 fans are actually faulty, so I went out to swap them out, and now they all match and they all sync. Looks pretty cool. And this lights up. How cool is that? The word Gigabyte on the GPU. I've got to figure out what to do with these wires or cables here because they look pretty messy. Oh yeah, it's finally working. Give myself a little pat on the back, like I would tell my kids if they did something well. Honestly, I was so scared when I first turned this on. The lights did turn on, everything booted, but I couldn't get an image on the monitor. Now it's just updating to Windows 11, so I'll just let it do its thing. But I was really scared because I turned it on, all the lights turned on, but it wouldn't produce an image. Did some searching on my phone, and it turns out the motherboard BIOS just needed an update so that it could run the 12th gen i7 processor. And now it works. Honestly, not as hard as I thought it was. There are so many great YouTube tutorials, and I'll link the one that I use in the description box just below the like button. I reckon this was so much easier than working on my car. Honestly, it was quite fun as well. If I was to go back to the beginning of this build, I would do the same thing all over again. Maybe because it's just me. I love doing DIY stuff, and which is why I make these videos, to encourage people to do DIY stuff and to educate people on doing DIY things. I know nothing about computers, and here it is, a working computer that's just booted. So proud of myself. And honestly, I've wanted to do this since I was a kid, been a bucket list item. So tick that, build your own high-end gaming PC. And it will improve the quality of my life when I'm trying to edit videos and render videos, because honestly, the laptop I was using previously, it would take 2-3 hours to export and render just one video that you see on my channel. For any experts watching, what do you think? Did I do an okay job? Did I buy the right parts? And if you know how I can improve my cable management, let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video or enjoy the content on this channel, can you please do me a favor and hit the like, subscribe and bell icon? I really appreciate your support, and it really helps me grow this channel. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Mr. Daunting TV. Thanks for your support. Love you all, and see you in the next episode.